encountered with in one way or the other. We met a couple of weeks to just catch up. And one of the things that we then caught up on was what we were doing in the workshop. And the conversation essentially led to where we are today, because from what she specializes in, which she will also just share with you, you will also get to see that this is really then that option moment for us to then deliver the session that we're going to deliver tonight, just to really give you that full preparation. Because one of the things that I think, even from our engagements over the past couple of weeks, is just to say that the APC is not just about the technical, it's not just about what is in the paper, but all these other elements that happen before the day of the assessment, during the research period, are also significant to your preparation, that you need to be in the right state of mind in order to really deliver your best on the day. And even just reflecting on what happened on the 1st of December, that some of the challenges that happened on that day really disrupted quite a lot of your thinking process. And it really highlighted to us that, yeah, APC cannot just be what we're doing in the past couple of weeks, but it's also these other elements that really build your emotional resilience and that build your what do you call it, intelligence in the process. So that's the primary reason that we are here. And we are really hoping that every one of you will take this session the way that it's really intended to help you in this final preparation, and to be in that right state to give it your very best. We believe in you. We are rooting for you. We are hoping to see nothing but the very best come. When are the results going to be released, by the way? Has Seika confirmed? Does anyone know when you guys will be flooding the social media with "I've made it"? Have they confirmed? Anyone gotten that note from them, or not yet? End of May, 27 May. Oh, okay, not too far. So yes, so we're hoping for those positive outcome messages that you'll be sharing with us come that day. But now, Zanele, thank you. Maybe for you to kick it off.
Awesome. Thank you, Rendani, for the introduction. Hi, everyone. Can you guys see me? Am I audible? Is everything okay? Everyone?
All good.
Awesome. Okay, hi everyone. My name is Zanele Maduna. I am quickly going to introduce myself and introduce the objective for today. But I just want to say I am quite excited to actually join you guys and to close off the workshops that you guys have been having. Actually, what I did is that I went back and I watched the workshops. I didn't watch everything, but then I caught, some of the things that you guys did. And what I realized is that when you guys started, Fedi actually spoke about the fact that you guys should be excited because of the fact that you actually have this opportunity to try again on this attempt, right? And he spoke about so many things, and he spoke about the fact that this exam, it's all about actually assessing whether you are a competent professional. And in that, I really do think if maybe, you want to remind yourself with regards to what is expected from you, it would be great to also rewatch that first workshop, because I really do think it really explains what is expected from you. And when it comes to what I will be tackling today, it's all things non-technical. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to share my slide. Oh my gosh, okay. I'm not used to Teams, so for some reason, whenever I share my slides, they disappear. So I'm gonna try to share them again. Can you guys see my slides? Let me know if you can see my slides so that I can continue. Guys?
Yes, we can see your
Yes,
slide.
awesome. Okay, so let's continue. Let's talk about the objectives of today. So I'm going to tackle the objectives and I'm going to introduce myself because other people probably don't know who I am. Okay, so when it comes to today's objectives, we'll be looking at how can you increase your confidence before the exam as well as during the exam. And I saw that when Rendani was asking people how they're feeling, Marco said she's feeling quite anxious. So we will be talking about anxiety. How do you tackle it before the exam as well as during the exam? And then we will just touch on using feedback from past papers. We're not going to do it in detail, mainly because I saw your workshops and I saw your professional team was actually tackling this a lot. You guys had reflective sessions and you kept on actually looking at, what would I have done wrong? What am I going to fix? So when it comes to that one, I'm not going to do it in detail because your professional team actually did an excellent job there. And then last but not least, we'll be looking at the tips for all-around preparation. So this is where we're going to look at preparation, but not the technical stuff. We'll be looking at, how do you prepare your mind, your body, as well as your soul? And you might be thinking, but Zanele, why are we talking about the soul? I just want to pass my APC, but then you will see in a few why we're even talking about the soul. Okay, so let's talk about who I am. So my name is Zanele Maduna, and I am also a chartered accountant by profession. You can see, a little resume there on your slides. I'm not going to talk more about my experience, but then what I want to highlight is that beyond being a chartered accountant, I am also a certified coach, right? So what I do on a daily basis is actually help students with their studies. And when it comes to helping them with their studies, it's not necessarily on the technical part, but it's all about separating the person from the studies, actually looking at the person behind the studies so that we can prepare the person and the person can be able to actually handle their studies and feel more confident so that they can prosper. So that is actually what I do on a daily basis. And actually, when it comes to this exam, I was quite excited to do this session with you guys because this was one of my favorite exams because I really do think Saika has done a good job in terms of actually trying to combine, the technical aspect, the professional aspect, enabling competencies, business acumen and all of these things. So this is, I hope you are as excited when it comes to writing it because I really do think, it's really, it's one of those exams that actually helps when it comes to character building. So enough about what I've achieved and what I can do. Let's talk about failure. And I just want to start by talking about the relationship that we all have with failure. So as you can see on the slides, that is actually the table that I used when I was writing my APC in 2016. I used to stay at Midrand with my housemate. We didn't actually have a table. So I actually put this plank on a couch so that I can study during my 5 days. So this is how my study area was looking during my 5 days of preparing for APC in 2016. And actually, this was my exam pack. My friend got me an exam pack with like the snacks and everything. So whilst all of this was happening, in as much as now, 7 years later, yes, I was able to pass APC and yes, I'm a chartered accountant. I keep on thinking about in as much as, I did have a place to study and I also had snacks and everything else. But then during that time, all I could think about was, what if I fail? Like I really do feel like when it comes to the preparation, most of us, we spend so much time looking at the technical part and we still have this voice, at the back of our mind saying, actually, Zanele, you might feel this. And most people don't do anything with that, right? So I just want to take time so that we can talk about your relationship with failure because as Rendani noted, the 1st of December happened, right? 2021. And you went through all of that. So many things happened. You were feeling a certain way. You did get your results. And even when you got your results, there's certain emotions and everything that you have to go through. But have you actually stopped and thought about what is my relationship with failure? So before I get to your relationship with failure, when it comes to my relationship with failure, what I got to realize is that most of the times when people are actually afraid of failing, it's not about the fear of failing itself, but then it's the issues beyond that, right? So for me, when I thought about failing APC, I thought about the fact that when Saika says, no, Zanele, you are not ready to be a CA, Saika would actually be saying no to my family, because for most of us, most of the times, especially if you're the first CA in the family, most people are thinking, oh my gosh, it's a breakthrough. They're gonna earn, you're gonna earn all of these big bucks, and you're thinking, this is my break. But then what usually happens is that you keep on thinking, but if I fail, it's like, that would be saying that, I can't really do everything that I wanted to do for my family. And what it meant for me as well was that I feel like I'm going to have one more year, and I feel like I would have wasted a year as well, right? And also, I felt like if I fail, this is going to prove, because, all of these years people have been thinking I am smart. But then if I do fail, it feels like everyone else will actually get to see that I'm not as smart as I thought I am, right? And when it came to my experience as well, I actually failed my first attempt ITC. So I was thinking, if I fail my first attempt ITC, what's different? It's highly probable that I'll also fail this attempt as well, right? So due to that, so many things were happening, and I really do think I didn't even take time to actually deal with my relationship with failure, so that by the time I get into the exam, it's not really about overthinking what if, but then it's just me focusing on the exam and actually putting my best, right? And the other thing is that, funny enough, when I was doing my board course exam, the first trial exam, the June one that we wrote, I actually got an LC. I actually failed it, but it's weird how it was 7 years ago, but until now, no one knows that I failed that exam, because I just had so much shame after failing that exam. So the reason I'm starting with this is just to acknowledge the fact that I know how you feel. And most of the time, there's this shame that is linked with failing, and there's so many things that you have to deal with when it comes to your relationship with failure. And often enough, we don't even pay attention to that, right? So I challenge you to actually start thinking about, what are you really afraid of? Yes, you might be afraid of maybe failing this attempt, but what does it really mean? Because if you can get to the root of that, then you can get to a position whereby you can, for example, when it comes to the key one for me, when it came to disappointing my family, I got to a point where I got to realize that, whether I fail or whether I don't fail, my family still loves me regardless. And either way, I've done so much compared to anyone else in the family. So if you do get to that point whereby you really understand what you're worried about, then you can start challenging all of those things that you're worried about, instead of having them replaying in your mind. But then don't worry, we'll actually talk about everything that happens in your mind in a few. Okay, so the other thing that I wanted to note was the fact that when you go through this attempt, most of the times what people don't realize is that this is you, but then you still have life that you still have to navigate. So just because you're getting your pre-release on Friday, life is not stopping. There's so many things that keep on happening, right? You still have a family. So many people by now, they already have children, they are married. So everything keeps on moving. And then you also have work, whereby you still have deadlines and people are bothering you. But then at the same time, you have this thing at the back of your mind whereby you're thinking, oh my gosh, I still have to pay attention to this, right? So what I also want to challenge you with is that whenever you are actually looking at this attempt, remember that all the other areas of your life are not necessarily going to stop when you are preparing for this. So it is actually on you to actually navigate around this and to actually prepare so that you are in a position whereby you can put in more in this next attempt. For example, right? So when it comes to dealing with family, what you can do is that over the next 5 days, let's say maybe in your previous attempt, you were not able to study much because there were so many distractions from family. So maybe for this attempt, what you can do is that you can actually talk to your family members with regards to, you needing more space so that you can study. And then when it comes to work as well, I know other people maybe have been denied leave and you'll only finish working from tomorrow, and then you'll only start on Friday and you won't even have time to think. But then when it comes to, work as well, during the 5 days, I've heard of so many students where during the 5 days, they're still getting requests from work and they were not able to manage it. So I just want to remind you that when it comes to that as well, try to communicate with your colleagues so that during the 5 days, they don't bother you. Okay, so those are the general stuff. Let's get to the hardcore stuff, which is what we actually came to discuss. So now what we're going to do is that we are going to start talking about anxiety, right? So when it comes to anxiety, let's talk about, what is anxiety caused by? And I actually prefer such sessions where we are actually communicating. Usually in our workshops, I don't just talk alone. So in a few, I will be asking you questions. So please be ready to type out or even unmute when I do ask questions, because I prefer for it to be highly interactive. But then let me just introduce this concept of anxiety, because so many of us are feeling anxious. But then when it comes to anxiety and exams, we don't really stop and think about, why are we anxious? Just like Malcolm was saying, I'm feeling anxious. Like, we don't really start to think about what are the components that are actually making up this anxiety as well. So most of the times, anxiety is caused by the fear of the fact that, there is the unknown. When it comes to the exam, we don't know the type of industry that we're going to get on Friday. We don't know how long the scenario is going to be. We don't know anything. So due to the fact that we don't know what's going to happen, then, that is why we have that fear. And then secondly, is the fact that we keep on wondering whether we are prepared enough. And that is why most of the times, even during the 5 days, other people don't even want to sleep, because you don't want to get to a point whereby you feel like you are not prepared enough. And then last but not least, the other reason is mainly because so many people are thinking, oh my gosh, this is the exam that is actually determining whether I'm going to be a CA or not. So because the stakes are high, that is why there's so much anxiety as well, right? Is everyone happy? Is everyone happy with the main causes of anxiety in relation to the exam? I would like to see some engagement, because now I feel like I'm alone. So let me know in the comment if you're happy with what I am talking about so far, and then we'll talk about, the things that you can do so that you can tackle this anxiety. I feel like everything is delayed on my side. Can you guys still hear me? Okay. Eric said he is happy, so that's cool. So the other factor that would cause anxiety as well is actually past negative experiences, right? So we've all been here when, the laptops were not working, the network wasn't working, everything wasn't working. And now we're thinking, oh my gosh, what if on the 30th, the very same thing happens, right? Of which it is quite valid. Or maybe if you are like me and you also failed ITC, you're thinking, oh my gosh, what if the very same thing happens whereby I get to APC and I'm not able to I get to my exam and I'm not able to actually perform the way I want to perform, right? So in order for us to actually talk about how we can tackle anxiety before as well as during the exam, I just want to find out from you, what happens when you feel anxious? Because the moment we understand our triggers, we can actually be in a position whereby we can better prepare to actually, work with those triggers and be in a position whereby we can work better. So what happens when you feel anxious? Please let me know in the comments, or maybe you can unmute so that we can tackle this. Anyone? Oh, guys, this is my laptop. I don't see any.
Hi, Zanele.
Oh, okay. Who is that? I can't see it on my side. Okay, you can tell me who is talking, and then you can tell me what happens when you feel anxious, and then everyone else, please let me know in the comments as well. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Zanele. It's Yamohet speaking.
Oh
So
yes.
what happens to me when I feel anxious? I think I overdose ice cream, and I'll be seated there the whole day, and thinking to myself, taking a break is a waste of time. There are times where you can tell you've been on a page for 30 minutes, but the thought of taking a break is like I'm wasting time, and then you end up not doing anything. And yeah, it's just the whole cycle of emotions that can spiral out of control. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Kiamakhetsi. And we're going to talk about that component as well. Thank you. And let's see in the comments. So Rutendo is saying, I had a panic attack in the last exam, so I can relate to the anxiety subject. Yo, Rutendo, I get you. Let's hope by the end of this, we'll actually give you tools so that you don't suffer the very same panic attack. And then Mahlatsi is saying, I get really overwhelmed and struggle to focus or to be proactive in thinking and applying my mind. Okay, so Mahlatsi, that is actually a good point because that's what happens in your brain. So whenever you are anxious, your brain actually produces, what do they call? I think they call it cortisol. And whenever you have an overload of cortisol, that means it blocks your memory. So that is why it's quite important for you to manage anxiety so that you can manage those levels. And then let's see what other people are saying. Matlas is saying, I get really overwhelmed and struggle to focus or be proactive in thinking and applying my mind. And this also has to do with that level of cortisol as well. If you have an increased amount, like you can't really access the memory that you have in your brain. Rachel struggles to concentrate. Noctula panics and cannot be productive. And then AC has anxiety cripples. So many people just can't think properly. They can't focus. And Pumotso was saying, I start to overthink and I lose my train of thought. I really like this because so many of you are struggling with more or less the same thing, which is overthinking and getting to a point whereby you can't really access the memory that you want to access due to the fact that you have anxiety, and as a result, you have high level of cortisol being released, and that is why you end up having a panic attack. So, okay, now that we know that most of us are struggling with that, let's tackle it. Let's tackle different components of anxiety, right? So when it comes to anxiety, it's very important to really understand the different components of anxiety, because the moment you understand different components of anxiety, then whenever you have a trigger, then you know how to deal with that specific trigger, right? So the reason I also call myself a coach is mainly because when it comes to coaching, we usually give you tools and resources that are suitable for you. So what will work for Rachel is not necessarily what will work for Noktula, and is not necessarily what will work for Ntlantla as well, right? So due to that, it's very important to understand that for you specifically, out of all of these components, which one usually occurs. And in you knowing that, then what you can do is that before the exam, you can start practicing certain exercises so that you can learn to deal with it even before the exam, so that when you get the very same thing after during the exam, you have your tools. You just do what you know would usually work. So firstly, we have the cognitive component, which has to do, with your mind. And then we have the physical component, of which, for me, this is the one, physical. Like whenever I'm anxious, it's like I can feel it here, at the back of my neck. It's like everything just tightens, like my muscles just tighten up. And then emotional, other people just feel like they want to cry. And then you have behavior as well, right? So just to break them down and give you examples, when it comes to cognitive, this is the one that most of you guys are talking about. This is where it's like you are overthinking and you're just anticipating the worst. You're like, oh my gosh, what if this happens? What if, again, the laptop doesn't work? And then the network this, and then my file this, and then my file bends. Like, you think about all of these things. And then physical, you have people who just get this worst headache, and then other people who go to the bathroom like 10 times because now they're having a runny stomach. You have people who get the sweaty palms, dry mouth. you have people who just want to cry as well, and they can't even access the information that they have. And then when it comes to behavior, that is the one that Kiamokhetsu was talking about, that, you know, she just goes on with the ice cream, like, you know what, ice cream has to make me feel better. So it's quite important to actually understand which one of these components, you know, is the one that actually occurs the most when it comes to your exam anxiety, so that you can know how to deal with it, right? So I am going to talk about how you can deal with these components when we're talking about mind, body, and soul in detail. But then before, oh yeah, I get you. Hutendo, Nsua was saying, imagine getting all of those. Like it would be a lot. I do get you, and so many people it happens whereby, you know, it's overthinking, and then they end up, you know, overeating as well, and there's a headache, and then you know, it can, you know, it can actually be bad. But then remember, if it is excessive, what you need is actually not coaching. What you need is a doctor. So if your anxiety is super excessive, this is where you actually have to go to a doctor. Okay, so when it comes to you being in a position whereby you know that, you know what, I can actually conquer my anxiety and actually increase my confidence for the exam, what you need to do is that you actually have to understand, when it comes to you increasing your confidence, what is really required, right? So keep this in mind. Keep in mind the fact that when it comes to anxiety, this is how anxiety looks like, right? So now what we're going to talk about is the opposite, which is actually increasing confidence. If our objective is to increase our confidence in the exam, what we're going to talk about is, you know, what do we mean by confidence, and what should we be looking at so that we are in a position whereby we can say we are comfortable with the fact that, you know, we are so confident about this exam. So in order for us to tackle that, what we first have to do is that we have to firstly understand what confidence means, right? So this is the definition of confidence. If we are going to talk about you being confident in the exam and you actually dealing with anxiety, what we have to do is to firstly understand what confidence is. So when it comes to what confidence is the feeling, belief that one can have faith in or rely on someone or something, right? So that is the definition. So the reason I showed you this definition is because in order for you to be confident that you're going to pass APC, what you need to do is that you have to be in a position whereby you can rely on someone, which is you. This is the only person that we can actually rely on, or something. Actually, in this context, you have to be in a position whereby you can rely on yourself, and you can also rely on your ability to tackle the exam. Those are the key things, right? So let's just take a step back. Why am I telling you this? There's a reason I'm telling you this. It's because most of the times, in order for you to master yourself and be in a position whereby you are comfortable that you did everything that you can do so that you are ready for the exam, you need to know. So most of us, what we need is more like, you know, a mini checklist whereby you can say, I know if I've looked at 1 and 2, I'm fine. Right? Because most of the times you're thinking, oh, I don't know where I should start. I don't know what to look into. So this is just to remind you that when it comes to confidence, these are the only 2 things that you should be looking at. You should only be looking at, can I really rely on myself? And what can I do so that I can have that trust in myself? And secondly, can I rely on my ability to tackle this exam? And when it comes to relying on your ability to tackle this exam, the professional team has done an amazing job. Like I was seeing, you know, the classes from Rendani, Humo, and you know, when it comes to really preparing you and guiding you with regards to your ability to tackle the exam, I feel like they've done their best and they've done a lot there. But then now we have to talk about you. You know, are you confident? Can you trust your ability to tackle this exam? So what we're going to do is that we are going to break it down, right? What are the strategies that you can put in place so that you can trust your ability to tackle the exam, right? So remember, what we said is that the reason the exam is terrifying you so much is mainly because for you now it's the unknown. You don't know what, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know the industry. You're thinking, oh my gosh, what if, they bring this industry that I don't know of, or what if they repeat the same industry and I don't even understand the education industry even now, and what's happening with, these type of companies as well. And due to the fact that, there's this big uncertainty, one of the key things that you can do. So what I did in my slides is that there are so many tools and resources that I can give you. But then what I did is that I'm just gonna, suggest a few, because remember, you're starting in 2 days, so I don't want to overwhelm you. But then remember, after this, you can always email me if you want to talk about other strategies and other things as well. Okay, so because of the fact that you are being anxious and you have this fear of the unknown, what you need to do is that you have to firstly make it known. What do I mean by make it known? What I mean is that when it comes to the exam, there are things you can control and there are things you can't control, right? So what you can't control is how the paper is going to look like and what you're going to get. Like that you can't control, right? But then what you can control is basically everything else except what is in the paper. So what am I talking about? What I'm talking about is that one of the things that you can do to actually start feeling like, the exam is not this thing that, everything is just unknown, is that what you can do is that during your 5 days, one of the things that you can do is that you can try to sync your hours to be the same hours that you usually use to write the exam. So this is the example. So during the exam, what usually happens is that you write within the 8 hours, right? So you would start at like 8 o'clock and then you finish at around 5 o'clock, right? So in order for you to get yourself in a position where then you feel like you are more prepared for that exam, then what you can do is that you can sync your study hours. So during your 5 days, you can stick to the very same hours. That is one of the things you can do so that you can make it more known. So that means every day, 8 to 5, you are on, right? So when it comes to, if you want to take breaks in certain times during the exams, try mimicking it, because the more you mimic that, then, the environment, like where, how you study, the way you put your pens down, how everything looks, the more you mimic that environment, then what it means is that when you get to the exam and you put your pens the way you would usually put your pens, you put your laptop there, you put your paper there. If everything looks exactly the same as it was looking like during the 5 days, then during the exam, you will be bringing the element of the known. So what's going to happen is that the moment you sit down, now the only thing that is unknown is only going to be what's in the paper. Your desk is going to look similar. The hours that you're going to work in, everything's going to look similar. If you're going to be writing in sweats, like put on almost the same outfits as well. Other people like color coordination. If you like putting 3 highlighters, things like, do that so that everything else feels known. Because in that way, when you sit down, you're going to feel like, what? I'm safe. I'm still at home. I'm still doing what I'm used to doing because I did this over the 5 days, like I was doing the very same thing. So in that way, your body is going to be calm, your mind is going to be calm. And then now you can actually tackle the only thing which is unknown, which is the exam. So let me know in the comment if that makes sense and if that's something you're willing to do. I know other people during the 5 days only want to sleep for 2 hours or something like that. We'll talk about that. But then let me know when it comes to this concept of actually reducing the number of things that are unknown. Does that make sense? And does it look like something that you can actually try so that you can kind of increase your ability? Okay, so Blessing is saying it definitely makes sense. Makoma is saying this is brilliant. Okay, awesome. I'm glad. So that is one of the things that you can do. Remember, there are multiple things that you can do, but then I really do think so. Okay, and then Rutendo as well. AC, people are saying it makes sense. Awesome. Okay, So let's look into the second component, right? Because now we want you to get into a position whereby you trust your ability to tackle the exam. Secondly, it's going to be the fact that we all thinking, oh my gosh, have I prepared enough? Is my file fine? Is everything fine, right? So most of these things your professional team has already said. So I'm just going to echo them and just going to, emphasize that during the 5 days, remember, like I think Fedi said it, like almost everyone has been saying it, that when you get that paper and then they say you are the new accountant or you are the audit manager or you are this, during the 5 days, like already embody that person, because the moment you actually embody that person, then what that means is that you're actually going to increase your trust in yourself, because now you will be thinking like that person, you will be acting like that person, and because of the fact that now you are really embodying this professional that you expected to be during the exam, then what it means is that by the time you get to the exam, you wouldn't necessarily feel as inadequate. Because if during the 5 days you're trying to, wear different hats and do so many other things, but you're not focusing on actually just, think of, how the Hollywood actors are like really, really great actors. Like someone will act on, just like Kerry Washington is my favorite actress. She acted as Olivia Pope in Scandal, and she embodied that character, right? And then you see her in Django, and she's a slave, and she embodies that character, right? So remember that in order for you to feel more, adequate and feel like you can trust yourself, that thing of you actually embodying that character is everything, right? So during the 5 days, remember, you are that actor or actress. Like you really have to be that accountant or audit manager or whoever who is working for that company, because the more you do that, the more you'll trust yourself, because now you'll be the person that is meant to show up in the exam. You won't feel like there's a conflict between Dipuo on Wednesday and the other person in the exam area, right? And then the other thing as well is that this is quite important. So remember, during the 5 days, when you are working as a team, what usually happens, and I've seen this so many times, is that other people chop and change their methodologies. And I do understand that it's not necessarily, maybe unfortunately, the people who were in your team for that prior attempt, they've passed and you are the only one. So now you join different teams. And due to that, you'll find that now you have a different team with different people, with different strategies. And now it's like everyone is being frustrated, mainly because of the fact that, it's like there's pushing and pulling, because other people think this will work and other people think that will work. So maybe what you need to do is that tomorrow you can talk to your team with regards to what is our trusted methodology, right? So, what has not worked in the past and what has worked in the past, so that by the time you guys get the scenario, you trust your methodology, right? Like you trust that, okay, when I am submitting my part of the trigger, it's going to look like this. And whenever we do this, it's going to, like, you need to be in a position whereby when you start, you trust your methodology, because the moment you increase that trust in your methodology, it's also going to increase your confidence, because the pulling and pushing is actually going to decrease your confidence as well. So the second thing is that you have to make sure that you and your team are using your trusted methodology. And I don't want to give you more suggestions, because I trust that you guys know what works for you guys. And then last but not least, so that you can feel more adequate, remember, your file is your best friend, right? Your file is your best friend. And I can still remember the time that I wrote my final exam. Like, me and my file were inseparable, right? Like you couldn't separate me from my file. And the reason I'm saying this is because and I'm sure your professional team has been talking about it as well. Like, you can't be in a position whereby you are over relying on your file. And what I also like saying is that just remember, if you want to increase that confidence, you also need to have a mental file, because if you have your file and your file is tiny, because remember, we are not in that times where you're just putting everything in the file, but then, you have your own structure and, those tabs are already in your mind. So whenever you are answering, like you have the mental file and you have the paper file for if I need it, right? So just remember, the more you feel like you and your file are, what's the word, entangled, or like you are one, like because you and your file have to be one to an extent that you don't even have to open it. The moment you feel like that, then that's going to increase your confidence. I still remember when it came to my preparation, the June attempt is like my file was this big, and then the September attempt, my file was this big. By the time I got to November, literally, it's like my file was so small, and whenever you would ask me anything, like I knew where everything was, and it's like because I already embodied that character, and I treated it as if it's this pack that I'm going with for my first day at work, and I know where everything is, and I'm the expert in this file. So remember, the more you feel like your file is your weapon and you can trust it, you can trust yourself, you can trust your team's methodology, then there's no reason to actually feel like you're not prepared enough. So yeah, that is actually component number 2 with regards to how you can actually increase trust with self. It's all about self, team, and the file. Does that make sense? Okay, so Mashat was saying she's going to try the syncing of hours. So let's talk about, the whole concept of you feeling more adequate with regards to attempting this exam. Does that make sense? Everyone in the comments, or you can unmute so that I can know if we're on the same page. Guys, am I alone?
Yes, we're on the same page.
Okay. We're on the same page. Okay, so AC is saying, they're willing to become the main actor. So yeah, you're enjoying the session. I'm glad you're enjoying the session. Because this session is meant to actually, be focused on you as the candidate. And then remember, when it comes to the stakes being high, I know, especially when it comes to the people where this is their last attempt. Yo, guys, I know the stakes are high, but then what you have to remember is that all you can do is your best, really. But then, we're going to go into what you can do to manage your anxiety. So there, I'm not going to say much. Okay, so when it comes to what you can do to prepare the mind and body, what we're going to do is that we are going to link this to what we spoke about when we spoke about anxiety, right? So, remember when we spoke about anxiety, we spoke about the fact that we have the cognitive component and we have the emotional component. So that's how, when it comes to dealing with the mind, we're going to look at those two. And then when it comes to dealing with the body, we'll look at the physical as well as the behavior component. And we'll look into what can you do before and during the exam so that you can actually, increase this trust in self. Because remember, the more we trust ourselves, the more our confidence can increase when it comes to this exam. So let's start with the mind, right? So many of you kept on saying, oh my gosh, I overthink and it's like everything stops, right? So what you can do, and this starts literally now, like as in when you're preparing, this starts now. So what you can do during the preparation is that whenever you are overthinking, remember, the moment you are overthinking, you are overloading your brain and you're giving it an activity and it's going to entertain it, right? So remember, the moment that happens, what you need to do is that you always, you have the main responsibility of clearing your mind so that your mind can only focus on what you're dealing with, whether you are studying it or you're looking at the required in the exam. Like, the key thing is that the moment you are overthinking, believe me, your mind will always entertain it. So it is your responsibility to clear it from your mind so that your mind can focus on what is at hand. If you don't clear it, if you don't give it a new location, it will play in the mind. It will always play in the mind. So what do I mean? What I mean is that the moment you start overthinking, you need to have a piece of paper and actually write those thoughts. Like, this will take literally less than a minute and less than 2 minutes to actually write what you're thinking. But if you don't do that, remember, it's going to keep on replaying and you'll keep on entertaining it. So what you need to do is that you have to take all of those thoughts and transfer them to a different location, which is a piece of paper. And guys, remember, everything that I'm discussing here is actually based on research. And actually, this is one of the points that is also noted in one of my favorite books, which is The Organized Mind, which is written by this doctor, the neuroscientist, who talks about the fact that, like, brain dumping is like the most effective thing. Whenever you are overthinking, your mind will always entertain it. It is your responsibility to give it a different location. So the moment you take a piece of paper down and you write, why am I worried? And then you write those things down. Okay, I'm worried because I'm thinking I might be missing a paper from my file, or I'm worried because I think this person from our group is going to give us information late. Like, you need to give it a different location, or else you're going to overthink for hours and your mind won't even stop you from it, right? So whenever you are brain dumping, also take note of the fact that whenever you are brain dumping, what you have to do is that you have to always separate facts and feelings, right? So just because you are worried that Tando is meant to be doing IFRS 9 for the group and you think she's going to give you the information late, then, is it really worth you stressing about it when you are actually sitting and doing ISA 570 for the group? Like, it's not really worth it, because all you can do is to actually, text Tando and say, girl, remember on Sunday, we have to have like our submissions or something, right? So start thinking about, is this worth overthinking? Like, why am I overthinking? And sometimes the reason you'd be overthinking is mainly because maybe you're thinking, oh my gosh, like, Psyche is out there to get us, right? Because I know I'm a VC. Like, I feel like I was trained to think someone is out there to get me. So whenever you keep on thinking, oh my gosh, you're going to get me, they're going to ask this thing that I won't remember, all of those things, take that piece of paper and then, write it down the way you're feeling. Like, just be like, oh my gosh, I think Psyche is out to get me. And then, stop and think, but is this a fact, or is this just what I'm feeling? And you'd say, okay, this is just what I'm feeling. And then you think, okay, if I get to the exam and Psyche is really out there to get me, what am I going to do? And this is where you'll say, you know what, I'll do what the professional team kept on saying. I'll focus on the points that I'm comfortable with. I'll focus on getting this and this and this. I'll focus on my tone. I'll focus on answering every question. I'll focus on this so that I do get the marks and I can be declared competent, right? So remember to actually dump it down and actually distinguish between facts and feelings, because most of the time we keep on replaying feelings. Okay, so when it comes to that, because so many people kept on saying they have a problem with overthinking, do you think this is going to help? Have you ever tried brain dumping before? Was it, effective? Let me know how you're thinking about this, because so many people kept on saying this is a problem. And I really want you to be in a position whereby, you can take literally 1 minute and brain dump and be able to get back to the task that you need to get back to. Any feedback from anyone? I swear to you, I feel like we always have like a 2-minute delay between. Any feedback? Do you think that's going to help? Are you willing to try it? Guys? Can someone unmute maybe?
Yes, hi Zanele, how are you?
I'm good. Who's speaking?
It's Michelle.
Okay, does that make sense? Do you think you're going to do it?
Yeah, no, for sure. It does make sense because I've actually started journaling recently, right? Just as a general thing. And it's something my best friend taught me, and I thought it was silly at first, but it actually helps. So this mind dumping thing, it's actually something that I'm willing to try, and I'm sure, because when you do that, it does something to you. Really, it's like you're literally getting rid of something, because when I journal, it's actually quite therapeutic for me. So I totally am going to try it sometime, and thank you for that.
Awesome. I'm glad. And yes, there's power in actually putting words to paper. So I'm glad. And I'm glad that you also actually highlighted that you thought it was silly because so many people think it's silly as well. But then the moment you see results, you do it more. And then other people, whenever they journal, they like writing, you know, pages and pages. So that's why I like actually explaining brain dumping, because if I call it journaling, someone thinks, oh, I'm gonna sit there for like an hour and talk about how I'm feeling. But then brain dumping can literally take about 30 seconds, and you know, you definitely going to move that. And then let's see, ACU, oh no, Kemakotsu was saying, I am dumping everything in my journal tonight. Thank you. Noctula was saying, I will try this. Awesome. Okay, and then when it comes to during the exam, I cannot stress this enough, guys. And research has already shown, guys, when it comes to neuroscience, multitasking is a lie. I know people are like, women can multitask. Da, da, da. Okay, you have to talk to the neuroscientist. Like, when you are in an exam and you start overthinking and you start panicking and you start doing all of these things and you start doing task A and task B and task D and writing the email and starting the memo, and when you're in the exam and you start doing that and combine it with the overthinking, recipe for disaster, right? So in order for you to actually trust yourself, just remember that it's okay to focus on one thing at a time, and keep on focusing on the strategies that your professional team kept on imparting to you. So just remember, multitasking is a lie. Focus on one thing at a time. And when it comes to brain dumping as well, if you always feel anxious just before there's a lot of, oh, okay, I just got a MS Teams. I just got a message, and let's see. Guys, I struggle with MS Teams. Ooh. Okay. Is everyone happy with the slide? Can you guys see the slide? I think we're done saying people.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Are you okay? Okay, awesome. Okay, Rendani, I didn't really understand your message on slides. Please, you can unmute and let me know if maybe there's something that I should be aware of. Okay, so that's that, right? So when it comes to you actually getting to a point whereby you can actually deal with your overthinking. What I wanted to say before I got this message, what I wanted to say is that when it comes to this brain dump as well, because of the fact that most people start being anxious at the beginning of the exam, what you can do is that when you get to the exam venue early, guys, remember, actually, they did a research on this. They did a research whereby they were actually looking into, the fact that what happens between the students who actually start brain dumping 10 minutes before the exam and the students that actually don't do brain dumping. And they realized that the students that do brain dumping 10 minutes before the exam performed, I think they got 5 points more on average because of the fact that they did brain dumping 10 minutes before the exam, right? So what I actually want to note here is the fact that when you get to the exam venue, when you get to your Galaga or wherever you are writing from, you know, Zimbabwe, Namibia, or writing from London, whenever you get there, 10 minutes before the exam, you can do this. Like literally, like you need like a minute or two. Whenever you sit down and you feel like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? What if I'm not prepared? Da, 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 da. Just take a piece of paper and write all of those things down. Just write them down. And maybe before you switch off your phones, whilst you still have your phone, if you don't have a piece of paper, you can type it. But I prefer that pen to paper is more powerful than typing. So try to do it before maybe you even get to the venue. You can do it in your car as well. Just remember that studies have been conducted, and if you do it 10 minutes before, it is highly probable that you are actually going to perform better. Okay, so let's go to the emotional part, right? So when it comes to emotional part, just remember, when it comes to the emotional part, if you feel like you want to cry and you're feeling a certain way, the key thing is that you need to start self-soothing, right? So what are we talking about when it comes to self-soothing so that we can deal with our emotions? What we're talking about is actually using all your senses. You don't have to use all of them. Okay, let's see. Yeah, I think you have to try to unmute mute there. Yeah, okay. Or whoever is not muted, just try to mute so that yeah, we can do this. So when it comes to the emotional, the key thing is that know when it comes to your senses, what you have to do so that you can calm yourself down, right? What do I mean by senses? So I'm a visual person, right? I'm a visual person. So because I'm a visual person, whenever I would feel emotional and feel like, oh my gosh, what if I fail APC and then my mom is gonna be disappointed, and then all of these things. What I would do is that I would sit down and I would actually visualize, right? Some people think, oh my gosh, like, visualizing is silly and whatnot. That's why I'm saying know what works for you. For me, what would work is visualizing. So what would I visualize? So for me, like I would actually visualize that text, like, that and then, Psycha is informing you that you passed APC. Da, 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 da. Yeah, guys, I would leave that moment, right? And instead of me focusing on my anxiety, then I would have this nice feeling because now it's like I'm literally visualizing my text from Psycha saying, congratulations, Zanele, you have passed APC. And you know that email when Psycha is saying, now you are a member, da 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 da. If you are a visual person, I do have some of my clients who are visual like me. What you can do is that, like you can do your fake text and do your fake email and print it and actually put it in your room or actually put it on your phone. So if you are, if you are like that, if you're a visual person like me and you believe in visualization, guys, do your fake text and do your fake email and keep on visualizing it and visualizing that day when the 27th of May, when Psycha is like, you are released, you are free. Just keep on visualizing it, and then your emotions are going to shift from trying to cry and all of that to actually thinking that this is over, and then the other thing is that you can use your hearing sense. So that means maybe you can start listening to classical music if that's your thing, or listen to R&B, the music that makes you feel good. That's what you can do to soothe yourself. The other thing is that other people like pets. So if you have a dog and you've been studying and during the 5 days, everything is, it's just a lot. What you can do is that you can use your touch sense. So what you can do is that you can fetch your dog and then you can pet it, or you can fetch your cat. If you're the type of person who likes hugging, you can go to the person that you care about the most, your mom, your partner, and you can just give them that hug, right? Or even before the exam, if a hug is that powerful for you and you know that you'd be feeling certain emotions, before the exam, wake your mom up, meet your partner by the robot. Do what you can do so that you can actually survive. So yeah, try to think about different senses. Other people, when they smell like lavender, that just calms them. So know what works for you, because most of you guys, whenever you're studying, what usually happens is that you'll have your diffuser and those smells will make you feel so good. Then just remember, maybe in the exam you can have something that smells like that, something more lavenderish, or maybe the type of perfume that you'll be wearing that day. It will calm your emotions down. So be careful when it comes to the type of emotions that you're feeling and the type of the senses that actually calm those emotions down. So that is the other thing. And what I have also written here with regards to during the exam is to remember that comparison is a thief of joy, guys. So when you get to your venue, remember, like, it doesn't matter what other people are doing, because most of the time the reason we feel however we're feeling is because you see this person and it's like, this person get their paper already, they are typing and like, because of all of those things, you start feeling a certain way, right? So be aware of what other people are saying, are doing, and how it actually affects your emotions. Okay, so AC was saying this is quite powerful. I'm glad that you liking that. And then Makoma was saying, fake it till you make it. Makoma, I think you're my girl. You have to fake it till you make it, because remember, you have to feel it. You have to feel like you are worthy of it. So that's why visualization works for me. And then Tibat's saying, you are released, you are free. I felt that. Divato, my friend. What you have to do is do your fake test and your fake email so that you can feel Saika saying, you know what, it's done. It is done. Okay. And guys, on that note as well, when it comes to visualization, remember your brain can't tell what is true and what isn't true. So that's why visualization is quite powerful, because the moment your brain believes that you are over this, then it will start supporting you in actually, you know, being over this. So that is why some of us strongly believe in it. Okay. And then when it comes to what you can do, when it comes to the body, remember, guys, remember, yo, like guys, breathing exercises are everything. So the moment your heart starts beating fast and it's like you feel like, you know, especially people who drink coffee in the morning, I'm not saying stop drinking coffee, but then, you know, you can feel, you know, a bit you know, you can feel like maybe shaking a bit due to that. Oh guys, the way I have flu, so I'm just gonna grab this because I have flu. But then remember that whenever you feel like your heart is racing and your body's feeling a certain way and your muscles are actually tensing up, just like me, whenever I feel stressed and I'm anxious that, oh my gosh, you know, it's all going down, what usually happens is that my muscles tense up. So one of the best things that you can do is that you can do breathing exercises to actually release your body. And you know, on YouTube, there are different types of breathing exercises. One of my favorite breathing exercises that I do, and this is like before exam. I think during the exam, I wouldn't necessarily do this, but then if I had time, maybe I would. So what I do is that I do the scanning breathing exercise. I don't know if you guys know it, but then what works for me is that, you know, because I'm that person who loves meditating. So I sit down and then I breathe in and out whilst I scan from my toes to my head. So what that does is that now my mind is not focused on everything else. I'm focused on my whole body, like scanning bottom up. And whenever you do that, it's like it literally, you don't think of anything else. You just think of that. And when you open your eyes, you are now more focused on what you're doing, right? So try to figure out if maybe your muscles usually tense up and you didn't know how to deal with that. Go to YouTube and actually look at different breathing exercises and try to find the one that will work for you. And sometimes, you know, one of my clients last week was actually telling me is that for her, you know, she just breathes in and out like 3 times and then she feels better. So that can be you as well. And then last but not least, when it comes to, you know, people like Yamahetsu who like, you know, eating ice cream and whatnot, just remember that most of the times, you know, it's always better to actually be aware of those behaviors that you actually engage in. And maybe what you can do is that you can try to swap those, right? So the moment you start eating ice cream and actually you feel like you're going to get to a point where, you know, you wouldn't act much, and if this is mainly because you are anxious, then what you can do is that maybe try to drink more water, you know, don't stop your exercising routine, still sleep your 6 to 8 hours, guys, because remember, when it comes to you actually being in a position whereby you can perform better, you need your mind to be, you know, to be fresh, to actually, you need to be in a position whereby you can access those things, you know, all the tips you've been getting from your professional team. You need to be in a position whereby you can access it. Remember, if you don't sleep much, you wouldn't be able to access the information that you want to access. So that's why so many people get panic attacks, because it's like you're trying to remember that, oh, when it comes to my tone, when it comes to, you know, the audience and all of these things that I should be focusing on, you know, the reason people get panic attacks is mainly because of the fact that you can't really access the information that you want to access from your mind. So that is why it's quite important for you to still sleep, stay hydrated, and exercise and eating well, because that will help you access the information that you need to access on the day. Okay, so we are done with the things that you can do so that you can prepare overall and you can deal with anxiety. Is everyone happy? Is everyone happy on everything that I just discussed? Okay, someone, is it Makoma? You can talk, because I'm not sure who raised their hand. So yes, you can talk. I think it's Makoma.
No, sorry, Zanele, it's Michelle.
Sorry, Michelle. You can continue, Michelle.
Oh, hi, Zanele, can you hear me? Sorry, my network is so terrible. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, yes, yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Michelle.
Okay, so my question, right? Because basically, when we're talking about stuff like this, like our breathing exercises and all that, it's really talking about wellness, right? Like being present, uh, like mindfulness, being present in the moment. But how do you keep the endurance? Because I feel like, in as much as yes, we keep this thing up, right? But it gets so tiring. But how do you keep going?
Okay, so that's a good question, Michelle. So is your question related to the fact that you feel like you lose the motivation to keep going and you want to start addressing the point of how do I deal with the motivation during my 5 days? Is that what you're getting to? Michelle, I just want to make sure that I'm getting your question right.
Yes. So basically, we're talking about this anxiety thing, right? Because it's literally like something that kind of lingers. So you always have to kind of be present in the moment and be in that wellness space. But I feel like it takes a lot of energy to the extent that you actually get tired to an extent. So like, how do you actually keep that momentum? How do you keep going?
Oh, okay, okay. So this is not in relation to different motivation, but then it's like, how do you keep going with the whole anxiety management thing? Okay. So I really do think you can either slot it within your routine so that it doesn't feel like you're doing it randomly and you have to do it every minute. So alternatively, what you can do is that instead of you trying to do everything, you can choose one thing which is most effective and choose, one time. So for example, for me, so that I can keep going with this and so that I don't get to a point whereby like I'm overly anxious, then what I do is that, I commit to a morning routine whereby I wake up a bit early and then at around like 6 a.m. I would do like, a 3 to 5 minutes meditation. So in that way, I don't, it's not like I'm trying to do everything every time. But then what I'm doing is that I'm just choosing one practice which is more effective and I have already allocated time to it, right? And the key to actually being able to keep going with it is that what you need to do is what we usually call habit stacking. So habit stacking is all about the fact that you don't want to do new things all around. Like you don't want to just slot so many new things. But then what you need to do is that you need to choose one task that you usually do. For example, what you usually do is that you brush your teeth before you sleep, or you brush your teeth in the morning. Then if you want to maybe incorporate meditation so that you are actively doing your breathing exercises on a daily, so that it's something that you can maintain and you can keep going, then what you can do then is that you can say, okay, every time after brushing my teeth or before brushing my teeth, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to do 3 minutes breathing exercise or 3 minutes meditation. So I would say the key to keep going with these strategies to manage your anxiety overall is to choose one practice that is more effective and actually stack it to an activity that you usually do, and make sure that you just do, tiny things. Just like there's a person who was talking about the fact that they prefer journaling. So if maybe that's the most effective one when it comes to you dealing with anxiety, then what you can do, then you can say, okay, at night before I pray or after dinner, I am going to journal. And you just stick with this, because what's going to happen is that if you have a routine and you have a practice and you keep on doing it on a daily basis, you say, okay, I'm going to do it during the 5 days and I'm also going to do it in the morning of the day that I'm writing, then what's going to happen is that, you just have the 3 minutes of choosing one practice, and in that way you can keep going with it. And all the other strategies that I've shared with you, you can just pull them whenever you feel like it's actually quite necessary. Did I answer your question, Michelle?
Perfectly. Thank you so much, Zanele.
Awesome. Okay, So, yeah, we are actually close to the end, right? So is everyone happy? Because this was the slide where we spoke about so many things before and after the exam. So if I can get a quick confirmation that everyone is happy with the strategies that we shared so that you can have trust in self and things that you can do for mind and body before and after the exam. Okay, T has raised their hand. You can go ahead, T. Okay, AC is happy. T, you can go ahead.
Sorry, that was a mistake.
Okay, but are you happy, T?
Yeah, I am. That was really helpful. Yeah, I hope I'm gonna start practicing now.
Okay, awesome. I'm happy. Awesome, T. So, remember we spoke about the fact that we will be helping you with, preparation, mind, body, and soul. So now let's speak about the soul. We've spoken about the mind. We've spoken about raising your confidence. We've spoken about the body. But now let's speak about the soul, right? So, what I wanted to remind you is that if there's anything that you have to know is that fear and faith can't coexist, right? So at one point, you are always choosing one. It's either you're going with fear or you're going with faith. Like you are constantly just choosing fear or faith, fear or faith. Like it's like every moment we keep on choosing fear or faith, right? So in knowing that when it comes to fear and faith, they can't really coexist, you always choose one. That is why what you have to remember is that, remember we spoke about the fact that you always have the fear of the unknown, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen with the exam. You just don't know what they're going to bring. So what we have to realize is that this is where we bring the soul component, whereby we say, if we are fearing the unknown, that means if there's anything that can work with actually, or that can replace the fear of the unknown, is the faith of the unknown. I know that sounds like a mouthful, but let me break it down, right? So because of the fact that we don't know what's going to happen, the main thing that we can do is that in order to counteract that fear, the only thing that we can do is that we can actually lean into our faith. Oh, Kemahat is like, amen, sister. So I know so many people have different religions. So I'm not imposing one religion on anyone. Like, yes, I know other people are Christians, other people Muslims, Jewish, and I know so many people have different religions, right? But then what I want you to remember is that there is this greatest fear of this uncertainty, of this unknown, and whether you believe it or not, but then what's going to help you is to actually, kind of like try to replace it or overcome it with your faith of the unknown. And yeah, that's like the key thing, because that's the thing, there's this saying when there's this woman who said, when your back is against the wall and the wall is against your back, who you gonna call? So that's how I think of this, right? Because I'm like, okay, I have the best professional team at Endunamo, and I have the best file, and I have the best team, and I have the best everything. But because there's still that thing in me of like, oh my gosh, but what if? Then I have to get myself to a point whereby I know that regardless, I'll make it. And most of the time, to close that mini gap, it's usually pairing the fear of the unknown with the faith of the unknown. So most people who are actually, super religious or maybe super spiritual, this is where you come in. This is where you remember that that's the only way, guys. Like I've given you all the strategies and tools on everything else, but remember, when it comes to that fear of the unknown, yes, you can do, that thing of trying to make it more known and doing all of these things, but then at the same time, you can actually get to a point whereby you remember that fear and faith cannot coexist, and you try to do your practices to enforce more faith, and you can build that confidence. And then the other thing that I wanted to note is that, remember, what happened in December 2021 is that you had different factors, right? You had Psycha doing their own thing and you prepared in a certain way and you had a different team and you had a different scenario. So those different factors brought you a different outcome, right? But then now you have different outcomes. So the other people who were not with Endunamo before, and you didn't know, other things that the Endunamo team were able to even share with you. And now you're meeting with different people who are going to be in your team as well. Now, you're even getting the non-technical support that you've never gotten anywhere else. So because of the fact that now you have different factors, then what you have to believe is the fact that now that you have different factors, you will definitely get different rewards. So you just have to believe it in you and remember that because so many people. So the reason I'm showing you this is because I showed you that slide where so many people keep on overthinking because you keep on replaying past experiences and past failures. So you have to remember that in order for me to get those past failures, I had different factors that I put in. But then now, like I'm doing everything quite differently. I have different teams. I'm in a different mindset. I have all of these different things. So I am bound to get different results, right? You are bound to get different results if you're doing things differently. And guys, I told you, I rewatched your lectures as well, your workshops as well. And I saw how you guys were engaging and like you guys were quite honest with what you guys were struggling with. So because you're able to come forth and put in the work, you will get the different results. So this is that high level slide where I just wanted to remind you that now, because you're doing things differently, you will get different results. Most of the times, whenever you do the same thing over and over again, what do they call it? Hallucination or something, when you keep on doing everything the same way, expecting different results. But then now you're in a position whereby you are actually doing things differently. So therefore, you will definitely get different results. And that's why I liked it when Redani was saying, you know what, I can't wait for the 27th of May when you guys are flooding the LinkedIn saying I have passed. I honestly can't wait for that. Okay, so I did tell you that feedback to Excel. I'm not gonna say much on this because your professional team said a lot. But then what I just wanted to remind you here is that when it comes to things like your technical, it's important for you to know your strengths and weaknesses and all of that. One of the mistakes that I did is that whenever we got the scenario, I would actually say, I want to be that person that does that topic that I struggle with the most, because I felt like if I do it, if I do that trigger, then it's gonna help me. But actually, what I realized is that it was actually taking more time and actually frustrating me more. So that is why it's better to lean in your strengths. And when it comes to how to actually use that, I actually have a 3-part series on my YouTube. On my YouTube channel, where I actually talked about that to a large extent. So if maybe you want to really look into it, you can actually look at that. I'll show you where that video is. And then the other thing that I also wanted to note is the fact that your team has been talking about your communication, tone, and all of these things. Just remember, your strengths and weaknesses with regards to that one as well. And if maybe you have to have certain templates so that you have to remind yourself. For example, let me give you a good example here. So when I wrote, I wrote like my June, and then before I wrote my September, I realized that because I got my LC, the key thing was how I was responding, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, like I don't know why I'm not getting these marks. And then what my mentor said is that, take one of the questions from the past papers and then see what's the difference between what an HC candidate wrote and an LC candidate and a C candidate, and highlight the key differences. And in all of those, so I got one of the questions. I'm not saying you should do exactly what I did, but then your strengths and weaknesses. So what I did is that I highlighted, and I would see that, okay, the reason this person got LC compared to this one getting a C is mainly because of the fact that they missed the audience. They wrote too many things. They were not straight to the point. They missed this and this and this. They were meant to review and give these points, but they ended up doing this. They used a different format. So, I just took a standard one and then just summarized those, and that actually helped me to improve. But then this point, this slide was just to remind you that it's important before Friday to just remind yourself of your strengths and the things that you're not that good at, and know that when it comes to the things that you're not that good at, there are things that you'll keep on the file, and when it comes to you working with your team as well, everyone will lean on their strengths so that you are more effective as well. And I know you guys did like reflection videos with Enjinamo as well, so you can go back to that if you want to reflect more. Okay, so this is my last slide, and then after this slide, I'm gonna play a quick video, and then we're gonna wrap up. So after this slide, you guys can ask me any other questions that you have, and then what's gonna happen is that I'm gonna play a video, and then we're going to wrap up. Let's see. Yes, we're still within the time. Okay, so I just wanted to remind you, and I know your professional team has said it, plan, 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 plan. Like planning is everything. Planning is everything. So, planning when it comes to how you're going to answer everything. And also I wanted to remind you, remember to embody that professional. You guys did say it. You are the actor in the movie. You are the steering. So please be Van Damme or Chuck Norris. so please be that steering. And then remember that you have to own your file. Okay, so T is saying, can you share your YouTube channel link here, please? Yes, I'm going to share it in a few. And then also what you have to remember is answer all the questions right. Remember, that is like one of the 7 deadly sins. Like leaving a question unanswered is one of the things. Like I'm sure your professional team has been saying it, and all the other podcasts, you can't do it. So those are the points that I just wanted to remind you. Plan, plan, plan. Be the steering, be the main character, be that accountant. Own that file, have that mental file. Make sure that, you and that file, you are literally one person. And then, answer all questions. And I just wanted to say, all the best, you've got this. So I did this 3-part series. You see, it's less than an hour, so you can watch it even before Friday. Like you can watch it tomorrow, or you can even watch it tonight. Okay, someone has shared it. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tau. Thank you. Oh, that's Helena. Helena, I think you started with your singing. Okay, thank you, Helena. So Helena has shared the link to my YouTube channel to these videos. So I recorded them in 2019, but then they're still relevant because it's not technical. It's all about your approach before the 5 days and during the 5 days and during the exam. Okay, so now I'm going to play the last video for us just to end on that note. But before I play that video, do you guys have any questions on what we have discussed? Do you have anything? Let me just go back to our objectives so that I see that we tackled everything. We spoke about confidence before and during the exam, and we spoke about how you can actually increase it using mind and body and other things. We touched on the feedback because we spoke about how we're just going to touch on it instead of doing it in great detail, and we spoke about all around preparation, and I gave you practical tools so that you can be able to deal with mind, body, and soul. So do you guys have any questions before I actually, oops, how do I go to the video? Okay, I think my video is here. Yes. Oops, here's my video. Do you guys have any questions before I share this video? Okay, I'll play the video and then think of if you do have any questions. But what I'll do is that I'll also type my email address here. So remember, you're going to be ethical. So from Friday, you can't really email me. But from tonight and tomorrow, if you do have any other questions that you would like to ask me and any other tools you'd like to discuss, you can email me, right? So let me play the video, and I hope you hear it because, guys, I'm not good at using MS Teams. So sometimes I struggle.
So good. It's as if you wrote it yourself. Search thousands of ghosts. Here's the painful truth. Most dreams never come true. And it isn't because people aren't working hard. It's not because they're not worthy or they're not good. It's the simple reality that the things that you're dreaming about are hard as hell to accomplish. So if you want to accomplish them, let me tell you reality is you're fighting an uphill battle. The reality is you're going to have to go so hard to make.
Guys, you couldn't hear the video. Oh, so the sound cut off when you muted. Okay, you guys, I told you, I always use Zoom. So me and MS Teams. Okay, I'm going to try to replay it, and I'm not going to mute myself. Okay, Zoom is quite different. You can actually mute, but okay, let me play it again. Sorry for that.
The painful truth. Most dreams never come true. And it isn't because people aren't working hard. It's not because they're not worthy or they're not good. It's the simple reality that the things that you're dreaming about are hard as hell to accomplish. So if you want to accomplish them, let me tell you one thing right now. You cannot ever be passive. And most people, that's the posture that they're in all the time. People are going to tell you terrible advice, like be patient. But the reality is you can't be patient, not if you want to achieve at the highest level. And if patience is your thing, if you want to chill, if you want to relax, that is absolutely fine. There's no moral obligation to aim high. There's no moral obligation to want to be one of the greatest in the world. But let me tell you right now, if you want to be one of the greatest of all time, the reality is you're fighting an uphill battle. The reality is you're going to have to go so hard to make that a reality that other people simply cannot imagine working that hard for anything in their life. That's the simple truth. And once you realize that, the people that achieve at the highest level, they have one thing in common. They will bury it with work. They put so much energy into what they're trying to accomplish that other people simply fall by the wayside. People simply can't imagine trying to keep up with that. So what they say is that person's extraordinary. What they say is that person is naturally talented. What they tell themselves is that person has something that they don't have, because what they don't want to do is face the hard truth that the dreams that they have aren't coming true simply because they're not making the right decisions. They're not pushing themselves to learn. Once you embrace that you're hopelessly average, that's where we all start. That's the beauty of it. The greatest piece of news that I can give you is that you are hopelessly average. That was where you started. But it doesn't have to be where you stay. You can become anything you want to be, but you've got to put in that inhuman amount of work to improve. But if you focus on that, if you focus on improving, then your dreams really can become a reality. But it has to be this aggressive posture. It has to be waking up every day and asking yourself one simple question. How do I get better today than I was yesterday? If you're myopically focused on that, if that is the driving thing in your life, that you don't worry about whether or not you're good or great or talented, you just worry about, am I getting better today than I was yesterday? Am I putting in that kind of energy? Am I working hard enough to get better? Am I working hard enough to outperform other people? Am I willing to hold myself to this incredibly high standard? If you're willing to do that and be real with yourself about whether or not you're making progress, then your dreams really can come true. And that's what I want for people. I want people to know that. I want people to believe it to the core of their being. You can do anything you set your mind to. And if you need encouragement, let this be that encouragement. You can do it. I don't care how average you are in the beginning. Who do you want to become? And what price are you willing to pay to get there? And when the answer to that question is, I want to be the best, and I'm willing to pay an extraordinary price to get there, then, and only then, you will get there.
Awesome. So yeah, guys, the reason I played that video, I am trying to not share again. Okay, yeah. So the reason I actually shared that video was just in closing. I just wanted to remind you that currently, you know, there's just one exam between you now and actually you being a chartered accountant. And because of the fact that now, you know, it's just that one tiny step up until you actually finally reach that goal. What I wanted to remind you is that most of the times, the things that are worth having take time, right? And due to the fact that they take time, that's why we are here, right? That's why we're not successful in December. And for other people, December was their 4th attempt, right? So I just wanted to remind you, I just wanted to close on that note, just to remind you that remember that everything that is worth having is going to take time. And that is why Tom was saying, you know, you can't be passive. Like if you really want to do something, you really can't be passive. And that's why I also liked that first lecture where Teddy and Rendani was speaking about the fact that, you know, now that you started, you have to always remember what is the goal. The goal is to actually qualify as a chartered accountant. So therefore I'm going to be active and I'm going to write this up until I get to my goal, right? So I just wanted to remind you, remember that you can't really be passive. And I want to wish you luck during the 5 days. And I do hope that during that time, you are going to do everything that you can so that you can get to your goal. And the other thing that I took from this video as well was the fact that just remember, the key thing is that even during the 5 days, if day 1 didn't start the way you wanted it to start, like, the key thing is that every day you just have to keep on improving. Just keep on improving. Let's say day 1, maybe you studied for like, I don't know, like 8 hours, and then you had 2 hours of like, you know, enjoying your ice cream and you want to do better. Day 2, you'll do better. Day 3, you'll do better. Every day during the 5 days, remember, don't try to, you know, entertain your inaction. Just remember you can do it, but then just focus on, you know, those tiny increases. If day 1 started with a bang, just strive to be 1% better in day 2, and 1% better in day 3, and 1% better in day 4. It doesn't matter what everyone else has done. Just trust your approach. You know, just run your own lane. Doesn't matter what Matapel is doing. Doesn't matter what other people are doing. I trust that you guys already have all the resources and tools that you need so that you can actually be able to pass this exam. Because remember, you had the professional team helping you. You tried to even rewrite the paper. You tried to go back, and now you have me with the whole non-technical skills. And I'm that person. Even though I'm ending on this note, I don't believe in motivation. What I believe that in us seeing results and in us putting in the work, that's how we actually get motivated to do more. So that is why today I came with strategies so that you can be in a position whereby you trust yourself more and you feel more prepared. Like you look at the person beyond, you know, the studies and everything, and you feel equipped as if, you know, you're actually that person who can pass this exam. And last but not least, I also want to note what Tom has said in this video, that you have to be willing to pay the price. So unfortunately now, during the 5 days, you know, you just have to pay the price and follow the strategies that we just spoke about and the strategies that the technical team has also helped you with. So from my side, I just wanted to remind you that you are worth this pass. You are worth being a chartered accountant, and I hope you will believe it as much as I believe it. And I can't wait to actually see your announcement on LinkedIn on the 27th when you tell us that you have passed. So from my side, thank you guys. I see that I don't have any other questions. So yeah, from my side, thank you for joining me. And I hope this will help you when it comes to your confidence. So over to you, Rendani. I think you can close the session if there's a need to.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Zanele. This was brilliant. Yeah, I wish now I was going to write as well. I think I'm fired up for next week. But yes, I really hope that it actually, from what it looks like everybody took what you were saying quite seriously and positively, and I'm confident that they will also use it in the next couple of days. As you highlighted, it's quite important to really build that rhythm, to build to put in the mechanism to manage the anxiety. And just to emphasize, it's always a matter of anxiety will kick in. There will be situations that pushes you to that. So what Zanele was sharing with you, it's a matter of you need to know how to handle that. You need to really make sure that you've got to understand yourself and do what works for you. But from myself and on behalf of the professional team, thank you very much, Zanele, and thank you everyone for joining in. Please also follow through on those videos that she shared with you. I trust that will also add quite a lot of value. Don't overdo it over the next 2 days. Trust in yourself. You've got this. We believe you'll get it right. So don't overdo it. Take it easy. And I think those videos will really help to get you there. So if there are no further questions, I'm happy for us to call it a night. So anything before we go? Okay, nothing. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.